Hey, back when I was taking questions from my viewers, somebody asked me the age-old question of aesthetics, of what is beautiful, what is considered art, and it's a very difficult and subjective question to answer, but I wanted to bring up something that doesn't answer your question, but I want to talk about anyway, and that's about the world of art. There was a movie that I watched recently. It was a documentary called Who the Fuck is Jackson Pollock? Now, I know a lot of people would get offended if I said this, but, you know, is interesting or is... I'm sorry, but Jackson Pollock... Ooh, I'm throwing paint on a canvas. I don't understand why he's a genius. Why? I don't. Could somebody please explain that to me? And that leads to the documentary was about anyway. This documentary was about whether or not a particular painting was an authentic Pollock. Now, this leads me to the issue of why in the hell are some people considered geniuses? And I think Jackson Pollock is a great example. Anybody could have thought of the idea of splashing paint around the canvas. Now, I'm sure he stylized it in his own particular way. He spent hours on it. It was intricate, blah, 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 blah. But what I gathered from watching this movie and from everything that I've ever all my personal experience over the years is that art is largely personal, cult of personality, and you know, a cachet built around your name, or however you want to put it. A lot of famous artists, or yes, they did have talent, but the difference between artist A, that's mega famous, and artist B, who's completely unknown, often does not come down to talent. Often it comes down to, as I said, cult of personality. Some people said, this artist is cool, I'm willing to pay a lot of money for it. And then it becomes a social contagion. I mentioned in an earlier video blog, the book The Black Swan talks about that, and another book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell talks about the spread of social contagions. And so I think a lot of artists who are renowned to be great, really, it's not that they're not, it's that they're overrated, simply because of namesake. There's so much bullshit pretension built into art. What some people consider as great art, especially a lot of, like, I don't know what it's called, postmodern art, it's just it's nonsense. It's a kind of a group perpetuated self-delusion, I guess you might say. I'm not sure the exact psychological term might be. There is a scene in the movie Art School Confidential that basically explains it perfectly. There was one girl, and there's a wall with all of their self-portraits that they painted on a wall, and this one girl, it was just this sketch. It was terrible. It required, it was, you know, something that a 5-year-old could have done, and you know, sort of like the Dada, you know, the Dada or whatever it's called movement, and all of the people in the class were intellectualizing why this picture that she drew was so great, and only the main character of the movie says, you know, look, this sucks, you know, it's garbage. And that, to me, is that one scene explains what I think of a lot of art. Is a lot of people sitting around intellectualizing why shit is gold. My philosophy of art is this. Uh, I can put this very succinctly. If I need a degree in art to understand why something is good, it is not good. Um, I think that basically it should be obvious, in one way or the other, it should be obvious to not necessarily the average person, but to just about anybody why a piece of art is good. It should not take a lecture or even a 5 or 10 minute explanation on why something is good. It should just be instantly and intuitively understood by looking at something why a piece of art is good. All the intellectualizing in the world is just nonsense. Its place in art history, it's, you know, part of such and such a movement, the Impressionist movement, blah, blah, blah. That may all be fascinating, but it doesn't make the piece of art itself any better, any more important. But that is what a lot of art comes down to. I remember in the documentary, they interviewed a con man who, but he was an art dealer, and he would buy pieces for Jack Nicholson, who was a huge collector of art, and when he wanted to sell something, he would just, all he had to do was say that you know, Jack Nicholson owned this, and people would buy it. It's a lot of one-upsmanship, and look at me, I have $50 million to waste on a painting. And that's one reason I like Jack Nicklaus, is because he has like multi-million-dollar paintings in his bathroom, you know, like it. Anyway, so I'm sure art majors out there are gonna tell me I'm wrong, and maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just a Philistine on the issue, but that is what I think.